Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Art Whisper 88. I hope you're feeling good today. I was in a stencil kind of mood today and I thought I would push the envelope, and I have cut some more of these reusable stencils and I made them a little more elaborate, as you can see, and I laid them out like I usually do, like a picture puzzle, and I am going to do a primary layer of Mars Black with Blickcrylic. So I will use my Blickcrylic on my 18 by 24 gel plate. Now, this is the largest gel plate in production, and I will put a link in the description box below. This was kindly donated to me by gelliarts.com. and I'm very happy to use it. Now this time, since the arrangement of reusable stencils is very elaborate, I'm just going to roll over it instead of trying to cut around it with a small brayer. This way it will be faster. And I'm not going to mind if it's not very even, because sometimes it's the unevenness that gives it a little more interest. And like I always do with a larger plate, I work on it in sections so as not to get overwhelmed. Now, if you have noticed, I use more paint than most gel plate artists, and I don't offload my brayer because I want to use as much of the paint on the plate as possible. I find that offloading it on paper is a little distracting for me, but that's just me. You can offload your brayer on whatever you like, but that's the style of your work. But this style of working works just fine for me. And I do prefer a heavier application of paint as opposed to the ultra thin or ultra fine layers that I see in other videos. Okay. Now I will add some extra textures here just to break up the evenness. Now this may or may not show up, it doesn't matter. I just want to add some gestural lines. Because I think that in printmaking and in art, it's a matter of adding information, visual information, that is. It's like telling a story. And sometimes the more twists and turns in the story, the more interesting the story becomes. Okay. I'm just going to start picking up the pieces here. So in my videos, if you have been watching the other ones, I'm presenting two separate approaches to printmaking. One is a very structured, very formal type, which you are looking at right now, where the shapes are very clearly defined. And the other type is very free form, very unstructured, unscripted type of expression, more in the tradition of abstract expressionism. So you can adapt the style that you prefer according to your taste or what you feel more comfortable doing. And above all, try not to copy other people's work. You can pick inspiration from other artists like I do, but I try to make it my own. Try to develop your own style. In this way you can grow as an artist. Okay, I think I got them all, even the small ones. All right, so now the next step, aside from washing these guys, is to allow this to dry, and I will be right back. Okay, everybody, it's been 5 minutes. You can clearly see that the shine of the paint is gone. It's more of a matte finish now. So I will start with some cadmium red, just a few touches here and there. This is almost gone, so to take the cap off. Okay, I don't need a whole lot. Now this time I will do the reds first. There. So I'm rolling out the red areas first, making them even. Then I will follow up with darker colors. I have here turquoise by Soho acrylic. It's one of my favorite colors. I think this has kind of dried up. And dioxazine violet. Now I rarely use violet, but I think it will work with this color combination. This time I will be using a wider, much wider brayer. Now this is a fairly ambitious project because number one, it's a large size, and number two, there are more stencils involved, so it's a more complex image. And because of that, I have to use more paint. I have to make sure that every square inch of the plate is well inked. Because I use the term ink and paint interchangeably because I'm old school. That's what I got used to in printmaking class. Because in those days we called the paints inks, and they were oil-based and very, very thick. Now times have changed with the invention of acrylics and water-based paints, but I still call them inks. Okay. I don't have my tub of water with me. I'll wash them out later. Okay. Getting this table straightened out is always a challenge. So I will be using my Richeson 22 by 30 paper. It's 88 pound and very reasonably priced. Now in this case, I hope that all the paint transfers. I'm not hoping that there will be a ghost left, because I am dealing with a very elaborate arrangement of stenciled images. Okay, so leave this for 5 minutes under the fan and I will be right back. Okay, this is the exciting part. I hope that the paint has transferred. I think it has. I can always tell by peeking in the corner if it worked out or not. Now the issue is I hope it doesn't tear. It's a very dark, mysterious look because the majority of the color is black. See, I left a stencil. That's okay. If I pick it off soon enough, it'll be fine. Okay. Let me see if I can remove that. There, just in time. There we go. Alright, now I will let this dry first and move on to the next step. Now I deliberately made this first layer of dark color. I'm going to add succeeding brighter colors on top of them. So I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, everybody, here we are at the second portion of this video. I decided to use copper as a second layer, just to contrast with the very dark background. And for some reason, this copper is a little easier to spread. It's not as thick. Maybe it's because of the metallic component in it. Now this time I really had to think about what color to use. This is a bit tricky because there are certain colors that work and certain colors that do not. I didn't want the second layer to blend in too much, but at the same time I didn't want to have too much contrast. Oops. Sometimes the stencil doesn't stick that much, like that. I just leave it, leave that open. That's because I washed the stencils and they're still wet. Now when they're still wet, they're not as sticky. Okay. Okay, let's see how this works out. So this is the first layer, which is very dark. And this is where proper registration comes into play. When your print is registered properly, your layers will always fall in the same place. Now that's the reason why when I place my plate on the printing bed, I make sure that it doesn't move. I've had many well-meaning suggestions from viewers to flip the plate over and peel the plate off the paper, as opposed to peeling the paper off the plate. Now, when you are working on this large of a scale, that's not practical to do. First of all, the plate is very heavy. And secondly, it messes up the registration. Once you move your plate, all that meticulous measurements all goes out the window. So that doesn't work for me. But like I mentioned before, everyone has their own style of working, and this just happens to be the way that works for me. If you find something is more practical for you, by all means, you should do it. Okay, I will let this sit and I will be right back. I think the copper works very well. It's sort of intermediary. It's not too much contrast, but just enough. Okay, I like that. Let me air dry this, and I'm going to push the envelope this time. I want a third layer and of a much lighter, maybe an iridescent yellow, and see how that works out. Okay, I think I'm going to go to town this time and make this really elaborate. This is pearl yellow. I like this a lot. This is like gold leaf. Okay, takes a little bit of doing because it's a very thin type of paint and it's hard to see. It's only visible when it dries. Here is the print with the second layer. Let's see how this works out. Okay. As usual, I will leave this on for about 5 minutes, and hopefully things will work out. This is the exciting part. Let's see how we made out. Looks very subtle, but it's there. Okay. Very cool. It's not very obvious, but it's a very subtle touch. You will see the result much better when I do a close-up, because sometimes the subtle differences don't show up on video. So I will air dry this and I'll be right back. Okay everybody, here's my favorite part of this video where I get to show you the final product. This is a 3-layer monoprint, and I've used metallic paints. Here's a close-up. And if I shift the paper from side to side, you can see the gleam of the metallic paint. And as usual, it has this mesh-like quality, and that is because of the texture of the brayer. Now the final layer is very subtle because it only shows up at certain angles. So it's different when you see it in person. Okay, let me just shift this over. So there you have it. That was my ambitious attempt at 3 layers of stencils. I'm pretty pleased with it. I'm a little disappointed that the color intensities are not as much as I expected, but everything's always a surprise. And I think of it like trying to arrange an orchestra with lots of instruments. The more instruments you have, the more difficult it gets because you have so many variables. But I think so far this is a pleasing result. And what I like about it too is it's different. It's different from all the other prints that I've done with regular paint. Metallic paint really does make a difference. So anyway, thank you so much for subscribing. Please check out artwhisper88.com, which is my storefront, and the proceeds of the sales go to help keep this channel going. Thank you, and I hope to see you next time.